will call to order the East Dundee regular village board meeting of September 15th, 2025. It's 6 o'clock. Bronco, roll please.
Trustee Oakland.
Here.
Trustee Guma.
Here.
Trustee Sauter.
Here.
Trustee Saviano.
Here.
Trustee Kunze.
Present.
Trustee Mahoney.
Here.
And President Pearson is absent.
And then we need a pro tem. A motion for...
I will move to appoint
Trustee Mahoney.
Trustee Mahoney as our temporary village board leader for this meeting.
Second.
How's that?
Is it good?
Yeah,
Is that okay? The attorney says yes. Close enough.
Yeah, call roll.
Trustee Oakland.
Yes.
Trustee Guma.
Yes.
Trustee Sauter.
Yes.
Trustee Saviano.
Yes.
Trustee Kunze.
Yes.
And Trustee Mahoney.
Yes. All right, then, everyone join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe we have one special person at least for public comment.
We do. We have Dolores Doderline.
Well, I just want to invite you to my 100th birthday party.
Oh, yay!
I wanted to tell you that I was a celebrity in Branson, Missouri when I went to Clyde Cooper's big doings, and he asked me to stand up, and I waved my hand and came down the audience and said, Dolores is 100 years old. The next day we went to Riverwalk, and 3 or 4 people asked me to have their selfies with me because they had never seen a 100-year-old. I just wanted to say my birthday party is at the VFW, October 5th, from 1 to 5, and I hope that you all come. And coming up here, I met John from Benedict's.
All right.
I haven't seen him for a long time because he's over in Crystal Lake now, but he's here too with Crystal Lake too. And he was one of the first people who decided to kind of have the restaurants get together and help one another. He was one of the first people who thought that he could develop the lumber yard, but that didn't go. And I want to tell you that each and every one of you has touched my heart because you all leave a little imprint when you meet somebody. And if I've hurt people, I'm sorry. If I make people happy, I'm glad. And I hope that you all come to my party.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other people that want to address the board for agenda or non-agenda items? Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Get a motion?
I will move to approve the regular village board meeting minutes dated August 18th, 2025. I will also move to accept the warrants list in the amount of $251,996.28 and $476,828.46. I'll move to approve a resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the East Dundee and Countryside Fire Protection District, providing access to health insurance coverage for its employees. I'll move to approve an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of the contract and bylaws document of the Intergovernmental Personal Benefit Cooperative and authorizing membership in the IPBC for the Village of East Dundee, Illinois. I'll move to approve a resolution waiving bidding requirements and approving a professional services agreement with Vanderwell and Associates, Inc. for financial analysis and planning services relating to the creation of a new tax increment financing district. I will move to approve a resolution in support of participation in the Safe Routes to School program. And finally, I'll move to approve a resolution approving a second amendment to the lease agreement between the village and Dolores Doderline.
Second. Trustee Oakland?
Yes.
Trustee Guma?
You left one item off the consent agenda?
We're gonna
Yes,
discuss.
we're gonna talk about that
Second.
separately.
Yes.
Trustee Sauter? Yes. Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Mahoney?
Yes. All right, then, motion for item H that was following under the consent agenda.
Yeah, I will move to approve an ordinance amending section 116.05 J3 of the Village Code and granting a supplemental video gaming license for Foxy's Hideaway LLC.
Second. And just,
Discussion?
Well, I think it was talked about that we would amend this.
Yeah, the petitioner's here. Do you want to address the board, or?
and the reason we pulled it off is because of the square footage. You might be able to have up to 3, because you provided other square footage. So can you just go up there and in the microphone, state who you are, and then that piece of it, so we have it just on record.
Sure. I'm Anastasia from Foxy's Hideaway. I know that I sent over the new square footage today because I had to wait. The square footage that was submitted by the architect was just for the bars. So I know it's like right now it's 750 square feet per game, and mine's like slightly over 2,100.
Okay.
You know, I didn't get a chance to dive into it today.
Okay.
So I believe what we said is we can possibly say approve up to 3, and then look at the square footage, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Is that-
Okay.
okay.
So the number that is, would be compliant with the square footage.
Yes.
Could there potentially be a way to?
Yeah, just amend the motion to say either 2 or 3, depending on the calculation once submitted.
Okay, I will amend my motion to modify the number of gaming terminals from 2 to up to 3, depending on square footage allowed.
I'll amend my second.
Okay. Trustee Oakland?
Yes.
Trustee Guma?
I'm going to recuse myself. I do business with the condos and I don't want to show favoritism towards one particular business.
Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Mahoney?
Yes. Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
was that approving the amendment, or was that approving?
That was approving the amended motion that you made.
Both, okay.
Yep.
All right, good.
So contingent on the square footage calculation.
Okay, great. Then, moving on to other agenda items. Item
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with the William Street Repertory.
Second.
A. Cool. I understand we have Richard here from the William Street Repertory.
Yes, please.
Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you all, and we're excited. I brought the team with me. We've got James, Michelle, and Justin. We're also the team from Rouse Center. Obviously, this dialogue started with Rouse Center. As we're growing and expanding and taking a look at this project, the excitement's palpable. We're thrilled that over the next week there'll be some press about a NEA grant with an IAC grant to support the research and to get the ball rolling. And I can't thank you enough. And most importantly, we're excited about the kids programs. NICOR and ComEd have signed up, and we're just excited to start the ball rolling. And it's a great community.
Very cool.
Thank you. We're excited.
Any questions?
So we'll be putting agreements forward with the William Street Repertory, not necessarily the Rouse Center.
Exactly. We wanted to keep it
for
separate
here.
just
Okay.
For cultural identity for the
Mhm.
town, and
Sure.
also to avoid any confusion,
Okay.
just in general.
All
So
right.
we're kind of hopeful that within the year, we'll have a call for board members as well to populate from the community so that there's ownership here and that there's engagement here, but most importantly, that it's a voice that represents this community as compared to up north. So,
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
That's all.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, any other questions, concerns? Just-
Trustee Oakland?
Yes.
Trustee Goodwin?
Yes.
Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Kudzi?
Yes.
And President Pro Tem Mahoney.
Yes. Next item is discussion and direction for the potential Fox River shoreline restoration. Matt, I understand that's something that you put it together, or do we have a presentation from someone else? Do you wanna-
We do not have a presentation. Phil and Caleb did the lion's share of the research, but Matt was the inspiration behind this, so I'm gonna let him speak first, and then we'll fill in the gaps.
Because it's a discussion, we don't need a motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So the idea is I personally live on the river. I spent a lot of time in the river. And since I've canoed and kayaked and went down it, I've noticed that our rivers pretty much over the last 150 years, people have used everything and anything to stop erosion on the shorelines. And it falls into the river. It looks pretty grotesque too from the opposing side of the river. So I'm not immune to it. It's on my property too. So that was like one of the things where I'm like, I want to restore my shoreline, but I also want to match an idea that we do throughout our town. So one of the things was like, what is the main focus of this? And I would say the main focus is to remove the unnatural components that have been used to sustain the shoreline from erosion. So with that being said, if you remove them, we're going to start eroding again. So they have to be replaced with things so that people don't lose their shorelines, especially there's certain parts of our river right by the bridge that are very quick. And that's why you see a lot more of the concrete and rubble in there. It's kind of interesting over the years, like they've used gravestones and all kinds of things over the last few hundred years. My idea is to get a consent with everybody of the design. And I'm not really looking for the solid boulder look. I'm looking for more natural. So what has worked on my shoreline has been a base of smaller pebbles, and then it fills in with natural silt. But we can also use boulders to direct the water towards the river and to keep things from eroding. And it doesn't have to stop at the shoreline. It can move up into properties. So like as you're kayaking, it has that more natural look. There might be a half-buried boulder in the park or something like that. And really got my thought going is when they tore out the dam and all these boulders were under it. And every time I fish the river, I have run into these giant boulders, but I've never seen any medium or small ones. And it's probably, no facts, but it's probably because they're all gathered up and used for dams. So it's kind of like replacing that back into the river. Another thing is when we've seen other areas restore their shoreline with boulders and cool architectural things, they don't do that great of a job cleaning it out. So like as we see, our river's really low right now, so we see all the concrete again. So it's really just to preserve the river. So from an East Dundee standpoint, couple of the hiccups that we're going to run into is a lot of the properties that have probably the largest concerns are privately owned. So we would have to come up with some kind of idea and then partnership with the owner of that property to see what we were comfortable with. And I was explaining to Erica earlier that from me, I always wanted to do it myself, but you have permitting, you have almost all the shoreline is a floodway considered, so you have that hiccup. And just getting through the engineering part of it is what can we do, what can't we do, and if the village could take care of that for our private owners and our businesses to give them some type of direction. And then we have this great Fox River front plan that we've developed, and to kind of start that, if we were to start at like the Carpentersville line and move south towards Bartles Park, that's probably the easiest place to start. It's the cleanest. It's all municipal owned, and like I was saying before, like we don't have to do like solid boulders like we see on the other side of the river. We could do more plants, more smaller rocks to just help the erosion. And I've also noticed with those big boulder areas, you don't see as much wildlife like on the side of the river because they're more plains and plants mixed together. So that's why I brought it up. I was hoping that the board would help set up some kind of idea on how we could do this, and maybe some kind of idea to build a partnership with the private owners to help remove some of this unnatural components in the river. So,
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and I like the idea of starting with the areas we can do, just to like set the standard and show it, because then I think the residents will say, oh, that looks great, can we do that too, and figure out how that works. And I like the idea of a mix of like native plants and boulders, some kind of open to whatever the experts recommend on that.
So the riverfront plan, Phil, there were gaps in the plan as far as, or was it more in the traffic calming, not necessarily the restoration of the river's edge?
I think most of the river itself, the riverfront, was included in the plan.
Okay,
There was a gap right at 72, of course, there's really not much you can do
right.
at the 72 bridge crossing, but
But
I think there may have been a little bit of I'd call it a gap kind of between Johnson and Dayton.
yeah, there was that part looked like it was put out. You had Hager, and you had the South Water Street area and the North Water Street area that were really focused on it. They pulled out our neighborhood, or that neighborhood from 72. I'm calling it like Hager Park now because it's going to be a park there. Between there was pulled out of it. So, but that actually is one of the most in need areas, especially once you get to the tighter part of the river, where you have the floodways on both sides. I think that's one of the reasons why West Dundee built the beautiful boulders and the ledges on the sides, was to keep the shore erosion from happening by the VFW, because that pinch point right there is extremely quick in the river. It's really shallow, so there's not like a channel or anything like that. So, and that's why those properties are all loaded up, so that they don't lose it. So, but in my idea, I was like, we pull Hager out of it for now, because it's going to be a park, and there's no use in letting that, like, redesign that as we do the park. We start on the easiest stretch, which is going to be from Bartles Park north, because that area is the cleanest and it's all municipal owned. Once we go Bartles Park south, we move into an area that has some redevelopment ideas with the Fox River, the Riverfront Master Plan that we don't have done yet. So, so I think that would be like the good spot to set an example of what we want to follow.
Yeah, there might be a really good synergy based on what we've got going on already with the new boat launch,
Mhm.
the kayak launch, and starting out from there and either moving up or down or each way, and kind of almost setting like a style guide, for lack of a better,
Right.
sorry, graphic designer, here, so that it doesn't become all like the big boulders along the whole area.
Exactly.
So that there's a mixture of more natural looking, as opposed to,
Like architectural,
yes,
you know,
exactly.
so which is
Yeah.
pretty, but I just, that's kind of like
Yeah.
my interpretation of what I would like to see. Obviously, everybody's open to their views on it. I do like what they did with the canoe launch, covering up the concrete with the boulders, really kind of closes it off from like looking at it from the river. So I think it's one of our biggest resources in this town. And whatever we can do to beautify it is going to be a plus for us. So.
Phil, did you have anything more? I know you did a lot of research, so.
quite, through the years a little bit. Gary Swick with Friends of the Fox, I've had a number of conversations with Gary about our riverbank and the naturalization of it, and he would have shared some good ideas with me. Trying to steer away from the concrete riverbank with some
Yeah.
boulders mixed in with vegetation and other river ecosystem type plantings and whatnot. So he would be a good resource that we'll want to take advantage of as well. In addition to the
Absolutely.
regulatory permit issues.
Absolutely, and it's kind of the mindset too, as you see like different towns, as they build into their river, they start to make like that rigid line. It might not only be concrete, it might be stone walls or brick, but it really loses the natural effect as you're going through there. So if any way we can preserve ours, because it's all intact pretty much. There's only a couple locations it's not, so.
But yeah, I would definitely want him as a partner, especially with the removal of the dam and this whole mindset of like bringing the river back the way it was, so.
I think it's a great idea, and I think the visual of the riverbank currently and what it could be is, I'm a visual
Staggering.
person, and seeing that, it's like, yeah, we need to do some work. So I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
So I think with the discussion, we needed an idea of budgeting some engineering money. Is that,
Yeah, I think next steps would be, seems like everybody's on board, so next year we would budget for some initial engineering and sort of develop this style guide or phasing of the public areas first, and then private areas. We could also potentially do some kind of grant program or partnership where we could facilitate working with the homeowners so that it remains consistent and offer some incentives or things if they want to participate in this villages program, so that we can, make sure that there's consistency along there and that financial burden isn't a hindrance.
Like it.
Sounds good.
Anything else? We good?
How many boulders do we have? How much shoreline
The-
do we?
so like, how many do we have from like the dam being removed? There's a pretty good pile. I didn't count them. It's not enough,
Not
but
enough.
like
So
if
we'll
you
be
did
buying
it,
more?
you would be buying more, but I also like believe that like the boulder's kind of a new style, but if we were to use them kind of strategically and then mix more of a smaller rock in there that just retains the soil, might be a better approach, because then we can have more plant life. Like in my area, I got this 2-inch rock and it's filled with the silt and all the plants grow through it. But it's you can maintain it when it floods, nothing erodes. But a couple of strategic boulders might push the water away when it is in that heavy flood stage. So we could possibly get away with the majority of it, what we already have for the boulders.
And this kind of thing, Phil, does the Army Corps need to be involved? Yeah. Since-
There was an extensive permitting process associated with the kayak launch,
Okay.
and that was part of the delay is between some of the regulatory agencies took some time in reviewing and providing the feedback and ultimately issuing a permit.
Do you have enough to go on?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Otherwise, we can move on. Item C. Discussion and direction regarding amendment of certain village fees. Okay, so we're not voting on anything, but some, Franco has some slides, I believe, and a presentation.
Right. The purpose of today's discussion is to get some feedback from the board on how to proceed with proposed amendments commencing at the next board meeting. We wouldn't tie this in with the budget, so that's why these are two separate presentations and not tied into the budget. In case anyone's wondering the distinction of the two. As it states right now, our current 2025 fees for an annual business registration are $50, and a location transfer fee is $10. For the 2026 commencement start of the renewal process, which starts this fall for 2026 license year, that should say, different than the budget, it would be 75 and 25. Additionally, something we haven't had for a very long time ever, whereas other municipalities it's common to have, is a delinquent late fee, and this kind of helps wrangle everyone together when you impose late fees on stuff, and it hopefully cuts down on staff time chasing everyone in the business license world to register on time. Additionally, so we don't have to come back to the board in the future and go over this again, staff is proposing that the board consider a 10% escalation every year until $100 business registration fees reached. And when you round it up, it should take you to the year 2029 is when it would hit the goal. just for comparison on here, the Village of West Dundee, they structure their business registration license a little differently based on square footage. This is a little bit more involved than what we have here. And their late fee is equivalent to whatever that fee amount is, where ours would just be a flat 25. Carpentersville is at 75 and also has 25 or whichever is greater too. When it comes to video gaming terminal licenses, we currently charge a $1,000 annual license fee. That's whether you apply now or renewal every year, in addition to the amendment. It's actually, that should be $500 per machine because of the update that the village board made in October of 2024, excuse me. So as of right now, this table shows that it's $500 per terminal, and it's split 50-50 per the code, the establishment and the terminal operator or distributor. The proposal is two options for the board to consider: splitting it 25-75 to reach $1,000, or to the $1,500 per VGT, and split at 17% and 83% rate. Should the board choose option one today, we ask that you do consider that in 2 budget cycles from now, we increase it to the $1,500. And it's pretty critical to point out that the reason why we're asking for this is that we don't have a push tax where our neighbors do, where they collect that additional revenue, where it's 1 penny per play. Whereas the Village of East Dundee did not opt into that tax when it was established by the state. So as of now, the establishment pays $50 in West Dundee and then $250 per VGT by the terminal operator. Again, their revenue is supplemented by their push tax. We don't have.
Is the push tax split between the establishment and the video gaming operator?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
I can answer some of that.
Okay, awesome.
So the push tax, you can no longer opt into the push tax. It was taken away a couple of years ago. The push tax is on the player to pay that. So if you ask West Dundee or Carpentersville how much they get for push tax, it's peanuts. I mean, maybe a couple $100 a year throughout the whole village. So the onus is on the player to put a penny in a basket every time they push the button, which no player does.
What?
So it is not built into the software. The big companies in Vegas do not put that into the software to include every time the button's pushed. So it's basically null and void.
Yeah.
There is no.
So if
Fair enough.
the only way you'd pay it is if you were honest and say,
If you're honest and put a penny in every time you hit the button
okay.
Could you
as a
hit the
player.
button 10 times and put a dime in?
That would be
Pe-
acceptable.
People don't.
Yeah.
And then if I may, can you back up a screen?
Absolutely. To here.
One more. This one.
Okay.
So Illinois state law requires that any licensing be split 50-50. So it doesn't matter if you charge the establishment $250 and a distributor $750. What's going to happen is the distributor will only pay $500 because that's state law. So the total, you take the total, which is 1,000, then you divide by 2.
That's, that is the state law, but there is no home rule preemption, so home rule municipalities can choose to impose different amounts that are, what Franco is, what Franco's.
I would get some more
Proposing.
information on that from a gaming attorney.
Okay. I'll follow up with the board.
Before you get into that, because I understand the concept. You want to make the distributor pay, more to do business in this town and not punish our local establishments, but in the end, it ends up being the same.
I could put a section in the memo for the next agenda item.
Okay. That's all.
And it's pretty much wraps up what I had for the board to consider.
Is there any way that you could do these taxes in the amount of machines, right? So like 1 through 3, you would pay 500 each. 4 through 6, 1,000 each. Anything over 6, 3,000 each, whatever it may be. Those are just random numbers. But can you charge differently?
I don't know, I've never looked into that. We
So-
can look into it though.
This is an idea that came up as the board goes back and forth on amounts of machines that are in each place. This might be a good way to level that argument and be done with it.
For the business licenses, is that something that is automated for a business that, is there an issue where people forget about it and then if we're adding late fees, like I'm guessing they get letters or reminders and like are we finding a lot of people didn't realize they're supposed to pay this thing and a couple of years later we have a bunch of old late fees?
Our building department sends these out, the renewals, every November, starting in every November, and we have a checklist on who has renewed their business license and who hasn't. And sometimes this involves the building department assistant, Gail, to chase after companies that didn't get in the mail or didn't check their email. So there's always more work to do, or sometimes they just are not responsive. I believe there's about 650 business licenses for Gail to go through.
So, we have 600 and some licenses in the village. How many, as of right now, haven't paid since last November? A percentage
I
wise.
honestly don't know, but if I was to say, I would say all of them pay.
Yeah.
But
You think we're-
we
we are.
have to pay some per month.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
They would true up in early winter, where Gail just
Now,
continues to
it's not
follow.
a flagrant, violation, but I think to motivate those that ignore it month after month after month.
Okay.
It's in face of, stimulating them to pay it on time.
All
And
right,
not have us send them out notices repeatedly, for several months.
sure, good.
Can they set it to auto pay, like from their credit card or bank, so that they can ignore it? It does seem like
Brandis doesn't do it.
Like the water bill, you can't do a portal like that?
No, I don't think so.
Well, Brandis is working on an online system that would be integrated into our accounting system where you would sign up online, then you would pay online, and then you would get those email reminders every year when renewal time comes. We're hoping to have that in the next few months, but it's gonna take some time to implement. But that is a feature we want to
What
have.
system do we use for the water billing? Because that's all auto pay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing with business licenses and liquor licenses is you really need your business owners to verify information that things haven't changed. So I don't know that we would recommend an auto renewal with payment just because we need to verify that security information, managers,
The percent ownership.
ownership, things like that hasn't changed over the course of the year. And that's kind of our one time to kind of check in with each of the businesses to confirm and verify information.
So it's not just taking in a check?
Right, no,
Right.
there's a whole process.
Yeah.
is there a form online they do it digitally, or does they have to like fill something out and write a check and bring it in?
We're working on that.
Okay.
We're working on that.
Hopefully, a new software.
Business licenses, I'm good with the proposed amount and the incrementally increasing the 10%, like what you proposed, I'm on board with.
Okay.
I'm on board.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think just make it as easy as possible for them, but I'm okay with them.
I agree with the business licenses.
I agree too.
Okay. And then just looking for direction for the options for the VGT fees.
I think you should get clarification on state law and how it's split before we move forward with that.
We can do a straw poll if since we're home rule, like she said that we can do it, we can at least give an opinion on it so that they have
Yeah.
something to move forward with.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
And are we saying that West Dundee and Carpentersville, their amounts were 500? Can you remind what they are in those towns?
Yeah, so West Dundee is $250 per VGT, 5 max.
So we're gonna be,
They're at $7.50 at Carpentersville, and they have 6 max like us.
we're gonna be 4 times what West Dundee is?
So we're at 500 today, and the proposal is bumping
We're
to
proposing
1,000.
to double that and be 4 times what West Dundee is?
So yeah, 25% more than Seaville, but 4 times what Weston is.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, if we could see that, like, what the actual, if they're not getting these pennies at all, like, that'd be helpful to know, like, does Carpentersville get, just so we could see what are they actually getting, and then what would this be, because we do want to be competitive with those towns.
So if you recall, last year at the same time, there was a proposal to increase this fee because we were at $250 a year ago. And we suggested going up, I think, to $750 last year. And the board went up to 500 and said bring it back in a year, and then we would consider raising it at that point to try to get us up to the $750.
So we already raised it 100%, now we wanna raise it another 100%.
So-
That's tough to do to businesses.
Right now, how many machines do we have? Is it 130 something or
About 126.
126?
In a business that has 6 video game terminals, the amount of money that makes for them in a year, on average, is,
Yeah.
Well, it varies wildly from the low end to the high end. I mean, I would
but some of the.
possibly consider a tiered structure.
I thought I recalled, like, the lowest person, or the lowest, amount was somewhere between $40,000 or $60,000 a year for just having machines in their, and then there were other people that were close to $1 million.
Correct.
But when you look at the potential income that they're getting for basically just renting out space to a gaming distributor, and just, there's not much you have to do, it's just let it sit there and let the money roll in, so.
Do you have the report handy?
It's worth noting as well that the state statute, and again, this applies to non-home rule communities, caps out that fee at $250. So that's why you see a lot of municipalities that have the $250 fee. But we're starting to see more home rule municipalities increase those fees just under their home rule authority.
I mean, that's why the board decided last year to
Yep.
increase it, because we provided all of the research, which we probably should have included in this packet, that the majority of the other communities that were home rule had higher fees than we had. So, you know, it's a little bit of a
For
not
2024.
telling the full story, that, you know, the two that we've provided are either close to or below what we're proposing, but, you know, we are home rule, we do have the authority, if there's an appetite, we can
And-
move forward with it, if not,
So here, your numbers, Kathleen, were not accurate. I mean, here's, so for example, Aliano's for 2024 to 27,000 in total revenue. So after the split to the state and the terminal operator, the location made $9,500 for the year. Okay, and they still have to pay income tax on that. They have to pay the state license fee per terminal, their annual fee for the Illinois Gaming Board, and now we want to charge them $1,000, so that's going to leave them with almost nothing, and the terminal operator saying, you know what, this location isn't worth it for us to do business in, we'll just pick our stuff up. So we're really hurting our locations.
That
at the end
location,
of the
though,
day.
is probably not the best example.
No, that's
It's
on the
just
low end.
an
That's the low
example.
end.
But Kathleen said that
And we have
the least
businesses.
that any location made is
100 to
40,000.
200,000 is the
It's
high
like
end.
this.
Right.
Like
So-
Bandito's 158,000 a year.
And that's coming directly to them, not the split.
Yeah, that's their cut.
That's their cut.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also, we're
158.
not proposing an increase to the business. So if it turns out that we don't want to do it that way, or that's not the way we can do it, then we don't have to do anything. Right now, we're proposing no increase to the business and an increase to the distributor. So at this point, I think we'll just get some more information, bring it back in 2 weeks, and then you can pick between a range of do nothing, 750 or 1,000.
Can-
Where I think we're at.
Is there?
Can we look in, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so there's definitely on a business license, like a times, it's more time sensitive than this. Is that correct, or is
Similarly,
this
this renewal
time
will
sensitive?
occur in a similar time frame, so
Okay.
that's why we're doing it now.
Okay.
But
Our
Do we
VGT,
have time to wait till the sixth? Okay.
our
They're all
VGT
January
licenses,
1st.
fiscal year or calendar year?
their calendar and fiscal are the same.
Same?
Can we check to make sure that the option of the amount of machines, the numbers can't change? Meaning like if you have more than 6 machines,
Oh,
you could
yeah.
implement
Like a
a
tier-
higher
tiered-
number.
A tiered approach.
A tiered
Yeah,
approach.
we can look into that.
Try to make it more fair
Mhm.
for the
Someone like
businesses.
here, they should be paying more than somebody like Aliano's or this guy.
And I think we think a lot about our downtown area when we talk about this, but we also have truck stops and things like that that aren't in the same category, that might
And the
have,
truck stops should pay a little bit more.
and they have more machines than any of our
And they have 10
restaurants.
machines.
So that's why a tiered approach
Right.
might be better at a 6 or higher level or something like that. That's why I'm bringing it up, because it's just a different market than our
100%.
small little mom and pop restaurant.
And perhaps we can also create a category of truck stop versus non-truck stop, different
That's
fees.
an idea, I told you about that idea.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah, 'cause
sure
they make
you'll be able to do
more
that.
like
We will
300
just
to
look into it,
400,000
yeah,
a year,
return
so they
with
can
our
afford
information.
a little
Di-
more.
Different class of license. You know, a gaming cafe license, you know, for somebody like Lucy's or Lucky Joe's that's making
Yeah.
a lot of money here. And, you know, then you got other small mom and
It's
pop
almost like
licenses.
truck stops, then gaming cafes.
Truck stops, gaming
and then
cafes,
restaurants or bars or whatever.
restaurants. and
Making it
bars.
relative.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can do that, and we will come back.
And
in
it
2
might
weeks.
all just happily align, you know?
I think that makes sense.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Franco.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got direction on that then. Discussion of proposed full year, it's so nice to say that, 2026 budget. Brandis, you look like you're ready.
Okay, I would like to first start with an overview of kind of where we're projecting to end this 25-year budget. And also, just to clarify that this is not a full budget review, it's just focusing on our operations, so administration, finance, public works, police, building, and refuse, and community events. For 2025, we are anticipating the general fund to have a 2.57 increase over budgeted revenues. So that's a total of $220,000 increase over what we projected. This increase is attributed to our vehicle parking tax, which is $75,000 over what we budgeted, and also streaming tax, which is $145,000 over what we budgeted. As far as expenditures, we are projecting to come in 4.86% under budget. So that's about $404,000 under what we initially projected. And this is primarily due to staff being diligent and considerate of budget and making sure to get the best possible cost whenever and not just spending just because. There were some challenges on the staffing front, so we have had a couple resignations in our police department, 2 just recently, and also some workers' comp injuries that prolonged the start of one of our new police officers by a couple months. However, those changes or staffing issues did not cause any issues or overages that we're projecting so far in our budgets. Overall, we are anticipating a $922,000 surplus, And I am recommending that the board consider, according to our cash balance transfer policy, transferring 50% of that into our capital improvement plan, which we'll talk about at the next meeting, to kind of fund some of those projects. And we are asking the board to consider an additional contribution to our police pension fund for $250,000. And that will net the general fund a surplus of about $211,000.
And that 250 would be applied to what we
Already.
paid on the 2025 budget,
Yes.
which we were already at the full
Yes.
recommended amount. Good.
All right, so we'll get into what we're proposing for 26.
How do we approve that? I mean, are we gonna approve that on the 26 budget?
We'll approve it before we approve the 26 budget. So it'll all kind of be wrapped into one.
And then we'll do a budget amendment to clarify the 2025 budget.
So for 2026, we are doing a zero-based budget, and we are balanced in the general fund, which means that we have enough revenues projected to cover our anticipated expenses, and right now we have a surplus of $2,000. Currently, we are projecting revenues to be at $8,771,905, and our total expenditures for 26, we are anticipating $8.7 million. And as you can see, over the last few years, we have our revenues have exceeded our expenditures each of the years that we've budgeted, kind of our full year. So for 2023, as you can see, we did have a pretty big jump in our revenues at $9.4 million, and that is primarily due to coming off the back end of COVID and getting extra revenue from our state as a pass-through from the federal government to cover some of our offsets during COVID. But typically you see a pretty consistent revenue for our general fund, around $8.5 million or so. And again, we are anticipating a surplus for 25, which will help us in 26, even though we're pretty much balanced. This year's, 26 budget year, we are anticipating less revenue, but that's because I'm a little more conservative on the revenue, on the budgeting side. As far as revenues for 26, there aren't really any changes. We're pretty much status quo. There was, as I mentioned in our budget memo, a significant reduction in state local use tax. That is a pass-through revenue source that we get from the state of Illinois. It, in 25 this year, was about $25 per person. And next year, the proposed amount is $3.84 per person. So it's about an 85% reduction. And that's nearly $100,000 from our budget that we're anticipating a loss in.
That's which tax?
The state local use tax.
And where does that come from?
It's essentially if you buy a product, say you buy a vehicle out of state, you're charged a use tax,
Okay.
and then we get that. It's the same amount as your regular state's
Why is such
sales
a
tax.
sharp drop?
That's a question for the state. Sometimes they kind of fluctuate how they pass off some of those taxes that they collect and redistribute back to municipalities. I'm pretty sure the IML will do some work on the back end to try to make sure we don't lose that much revenue.
Report back to
Overall, our revenue sources are our sales tax, which we collect both the home rule and a regular sales tax. That totals about 46.9% of our budget for next year, which it actually has gone down a little bit. Usually it's a little over 50% of our budget for sales tax. And then the next item is our property tax, which is the real estate tax, and that is 100% dedicated or earmarked to our police pension. And then we'll have additional conversations in October or early November about the property tax levy. Again, that's dedicated to our police pension fund.
What is that number, the 997, 521, based on the current rate?
So that's about 5% increase over what we're currently proposing to collect in '25. And that number will probably change once we get total EAV and different information from the counties so that we can better assess how we can increase that.
Yeah, important distinction that this number isn't, we're proposing a property tax increase. That number is more because we have an increase in EAV due to new construction or additions or other businesses that came online. So if we are going to propose a property tax increase down the road, like next month, we will only be able to determine that after we can capture what that EAV increase is. Because if we just increase by the EAV growth, everybody would stay flat. So we could, in a sense, collect a greater amount of money without actually increasing anybody's tax bill. But if we don't increase by the EAV, then people's tax bill would reduce. But then
By our portion.
By our portion.
Yes.
Everybody else's would go up because
Yes,
the
yes.
school district's never gonna do that much.
Which is essentially what we've done until last year is when we first initially, we had a big increase from 750,000 to 900 because we were able to capture the growth of different businesses or construction in town.
And that was
And
mostly
the
because of Prairie
Prairie
Lakes
Lakes,
TIF ended
yes.
and the increment became available to all the taxing bodies.
Yes.
And if we leave it there, it doesn't really bring down the residents' bill. The other groups take that money. Is it in like a pot that everyone pulls from and it's gonna get pulled no matter what, or their property tax bill actually would go down?
I would say that all of the taxing bodies have differing levels of authority on how much they can levy based on certain restrictions. So the school district has a levy cap on certain things. But if they sort of catch wind that we're not going to increase, then they sometimes will swoop in and maybe try to capture that. So it's not always an effective strategy to not do it because other entities may try to capitalize.
And the goal that we've been trying to establish over the last few years is to have the property taxes cover 100% of the police pension contribution, at least while we're trying to catch up to the outstanding debt that we owe for that.
Yeah.
And then to also offset as much as we can with whatever extra revenues we have.
If in 2040 we're fully funded, which we hope to be because that's the plan, that is when you could potentially decrease the property tax levy by a significant margin because right now we're playing catch up for previous years that were underfunded. But once we're fully funded, then that number drops pretty significantly. But by then, somebody might come up with another idea of how you might want to spend it.
We will also have a representative from Lauterbach and Almond potentially run some analysis for us so that we can see how, say, an extra 250,000 added to the contribution for the year, how that helps us decrease our liability moving forward and potentially reach our goals earlier. Some of the other revenue sources are made up of our utility tax, state income tax, permits and licenses, also fines and forfeitures such as parking tickets, things like that. But those are pretty relatively small compared to sales tax and property taxes that we collect. And again, a total of our revenue that we're anticipating for next year is about $8.8 million.
What is in other revenues? It's a big bucket there.
Other revenues is we do collect miscellaneous income from like our banking institutions. So that's been pretty high over the last few years. It's been about $500,000. So that's pretty much the bulk of that. Any other grants that we might receive may fall into that bucket as well.
And that's because of our cash policy.
Yes.
And because interest rates are significantly higher than they were even 5 years ago, so having, you know, $10 million in the bank generates a decent amount of return, whereas years ago you would have gotten $20,000
Right.
on that amount of
Yeah.
money.
Which may not always be the case.
Right.
Of course.
Any other questions about revenues before we get to expenditures? So fiscal year 2026 proposed budget, excuse the typo, we're proposing 8.7 million, and that is inclusive of all of our building administration, community events, finance, police, public works, and refuse. Pretty much status quo, but I will get into some of our specific changes for each of our departments. As of today, we have budgeted a cost of living and merit or step increase for each employee. For our police union employees, we're contracted to increase their salaries by 3.5%. For public works union employees, that's 3%. And then for all other non-union, there's a COLA of 3% and a merit of 2%. And then our police and public works departments also get step increases. So they get the COLA at the beginning of the year, and then they get an additional 3.5% or 3% step increase also throughout the year. There was a significant increase in or proposed increase for our insurance, for our risk insurance. We did have pretty significant claims over the last couple of years, totaling almost $1 million. So we are anticipating a 30% increase for our risk insurance. And then also, Quadcom is also proposing about a 25% increase. They've had some personnel increases and some other changes within their entity that will be passed along to all of the other participating members in Quadcom. However, Quadcom's budget is, I believe, a May 1 fiscal year, so we will not have true dollar amounts until probably early next year, maybe. So I am already budgeting what we anticipate as a 25% increase.
Did I give you that number?
The chief gave it to me.
Okay.
Yep. So our expenditures are distributed as follows. About 61% is distributed to our police department, and then the rest are allocated primarily to our public works administration departments, and then the other departments are under 5%. That's finance, building, community events, and our refuse line item. Of the total $8.7 million budget, 69% of that is dedicated to personnel cost. About 11% is allocated to our contractual services, so that's all of our engineering, labor, and any other contracted services that we participate in, but primarily those two. And then the other expenses are pretty insignificant compared to personnel costs. So I want to kind of go over some of the new initiatives that we are proposing within our departments. We are proposing in 26 that we kind of restructure how the salaries are charged for our village administrator, the assistant to the village administrator, and management analyst. Currently, about 100% is charged to our general fund. It does not take into consideration time and expense that is dedicated to economic development. So we are proposing to charge 50% of their salaries to some of the TIFs. Right now, we're only proposing one TIF. And we are proposing promotion and some salary changes within administration, which I will present at a later date, but right now, those increases total about 44,000. I am continuing to work on a staff and succession plan, and then those items will be presented within a month or so. For police, we are proposing to fill one officer vacancy, and that amount is 123,000. And we have one officer that we are looking to send to senior management training, and that's 13,000. There is new exercise room equipment for about 5,000, and then our standard maintenance agreements for flock cameras, tasers, and car radios, docking stations, and body cameras is about $100,000 total.
Why would filling a vacancy be a new initiative for just replacing one position?
It's not technically, but we just want to bring that to your attention.
How long have you been vacant in that role?
Is that Jessica's role?
So we have a sergeant that's out, and then we had one officer resign, and those both happened in the last month or so. So we're filling one position from the officer who left. That person's currently in the academy. And then we're filling what we hope to be a position that's then promoted to sergeant. They just started their sergeant's list to fill Jessica's position. So, but we don't have any academy slots open right now, so it may take a while. For our building department, we do have anticipated retirement of Chris, our building inspector.
What?
And we budgeted a 1 month salary overlap for that position so that Chris can help train up that person.
It might not happen until 2027 though. So.
I've been working on it. And then for Public Works, we are proposing a new managerial supervisor position, and that role will be split between our general fund and our water sewer fund. So the total is 141,000, but about 70 of that will be attributed to our general fund. We did remove expenses for the parking garage, which was budgeted in 25 in Public Works. We are starting a dedicated parking garage fund specifically for the management of those expenses. So we moved that. It was about $15,000 out of that budget. For refuse, we are currently reviewing the RFPs that were recently submitted, and we're hoping to bring something to the board soon.
Discussion last meeting in October, hopefully approval in November.
Okay. So we'll have a new contract for you. So the numbers in the budget are pretty much an estimate as of right now. As far as community events, the only change was to remove the previously allocated dollars for the Depot Council, which is no more, that were in the downtown and Dundee Crossings BDD, and just to reallocate those dollars into the community events budget to kind of just make one, and it more easy for us to kind of manage. And then, as always, we'll continue our computer and software replacement and upgrades as needed within each department. So those are changes.
Does the community events budget include any more events for next year?
I believe you guys have a meeting coming up.
Tomorrow.
To discuss that.
But does this budget
No.
include that, or we may have to add to this?
Yes.
And we have lots of time to add if any are approved, and it's funny you should bring it up, because in addition to the one Wind Down Wednesday that is potentially being proposed, there was a suggestion today that we add a Halloween event next year. So something for the committee to consider.
Yes, so nothing here is set in stone for now. It's just a proposal. And next year's community event budget is $170,550, and you can see the depot has been added as an expense for next year. Any questions about our department budgets?
The depot expense, do we also have a slot for depot revenue? Because at the last meeting that we had for the events, they did mention that they had gotten some revenue, that they didn't know exactly what to do with that money.
We can start tracking that then.
We'll have to talk about it.
I mean, it's
To go to that
like
other
compared to
pie
the
chart.
expenses.
Yeah, it's just probably in our miscellaneous
It
expenses.
just goes to the general fund.
Yeah.
Revenue account.
Okay.
So that's other revenue? That's another other revenue?
Well,
It was
I
almost
mean, I
more than
guess-
our real estate tax.
I guess my point is, if we are gonna say that the depot's gonna spend $10,000, it'd be a good idea, I think, to tie that to whatever their
Revenue sources are.
revenue is, yeah.
Okay. The next thing I want to just talk about briefly is our cash balance policy. Our standard policy has been a 20 or 35% of our expenditures to be held in the reserve, 25% of expenses, and then 10% for cash flow. Erica and I have been having conversations about potentially increasing that, but that's where we are right now. So that's about $3 million of our $9 million that we currently have on reserve. And then we also have included in our policy to add additional contributions to the police pension fund to meet the minimum requirements presented by Lauterbach and Ammon. And currently we are budgeting that full amount, so we can potentially look at adding an additional contribution if that's something the board is interested in over and beyond the minimum recommended amount by Lauterbach. And then we also transfer 50% of the surplus, less the police pension contribution, into the capital improvement fund. And that again helps to support all of our capital projects, which we have many, a lot to present next meeting. And then the same is true for our water sewer fund, which we'll talk about when we talk about the other budgeted items in the next meetings. But for right now, there are no changes that we're proposing to this cash balance policy. Any questions?
Well,
I know Public Works has been stretched thin with staffing
Yes.
and
Projects?
projects
Yes.
and more projects and more projects.
Yeah.
So very busy team for a small village our size.
mhm.
So I don't have any issue with that. I'd rather have really good support for all of these projects so that we're not narrowing in the scope of what we can do because we don't have the people that can handle it. And I'd rather have it within an employee within the village as opposed to going out to a contractor. If we can find somebody that's suitable, great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say thank you to the entire staff. The news of having the surplus for this year is pretty amazing. Well done, and as always, you guys are understaffed. We ask a lot of you, and you guys always come through, so thank you.
Thank you.
And also big thanks to Brandis and Anna for putting together this budget along with the whole team, because it's a lot of work to go through and estimate all of the money we hope to receive in a future year, and then all the expenses we plan to incur in a future year, and then all put it into something that can be balanced. And obviously, this is one piece of the larger puzzle. We decided to start the budget earlier this year because we have new members of the board who haven't been exposed to this yet, and so I wanted to allow enough time for people to digest it and be able to, you know, have thoughtful feedback about it. So we started in September instead of we normally start in October, so we'll run it over a little bit longer period of time. And then, you know, we hope to wrap it up with an adoption of the budget in late November, or at the very latest in early December, but that would be a non-ideal scenario, but hopefully by the end of November. So we'll have some more conversations in the next upcoming meetings about capital, about the different TIP funds and the other proposals that have been put forward for different infrastructure projects. But getting the operating out of the way first and letting you have some time to absorb it was super helpful. So again, also appreciate everybody getting that done earlier this year. Normally they would have had a little more time, and I bumped that up a little bit. So, but yes, overall great news that we're starting out with a projection of ending the year with a surplus, and then starting out next year with no deficit to try to reduce. So when we can start off those conversations with good news like that, it makes everybody's job easier. And that may not always be the case if we have a recession, if there's any kind of geopolitical conflict, if there's anything else that happens down the road, like we're going to be able to adjust and adapt. And that's why, as Brandis alluded to, the conversation that we've been having about potentially increasing the amount of that reserve, because I want us to be able to weather a storm without super detrimental effects on the staff or the community, because those fluctuations will come. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So I want us to be prepared and be able to be, react appropriately and responsibly without, like I said, a detrimental effect on the community. So we may have a proposal later on this year or maybe next year about increasing that reserve, but I appreciate that Brandis and Anna budget conservatively for those numbers, and we don't put on rose-colored glasses about what we hope to receive, and then we come in somewhere near or above. That might not always be the case. It's very difficult to predict these things, but knock on wood, we've got a robust, diverse economy in this community, and the last few years the board's been really diligent about diversifying the revenue with the streaming tax and the gas tax and the vehicle parking tax, and when we do those things and we spread it around, it allows us to mitigate risk a little bit more effectively. So appreciate the board's support on the budget in previous years, and also chipping away at those police pension contributions always will save us money down the road. So appreciate that responsible payment as well.
I appreciate the approach that you're taking, where we're getting little chunks instead of getting, the fire hose of all the information in one big workshop.
I appreciate that too.
So
it is a lot to take in, and I think that the first time is always hard, but then as you get through a year or two, then you're like, oh yeah, what do I want to propose this year? More ideas. So all good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
And we're going to keep Chris happy for another year, so he stays.
There you go.
He's like,
Chris is quiet as usual.
He stayed already another extra year, because I think you initially said last year was going to be the year, and then we sweet talked him. Creating a compelling and nice work environment. It's a good thing.
There you go. All right, so if there's nothing else, let's move on to, we do need a motion for item E.
I will move to approve a resolution accepting a bid and approving procurement of construction services for the 3rd Street and Water Street Improvement Project with A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc.
I can second that.
Discussion, do we have a presentation on this?
We do not have a presentation, but we have the drawing, if anybody wants us to bring it up, as what's being proposed for both 3rd Street and Water Street. So if you remember, this conversation started with Phil's brilliant idea of, and if it wasn't you, Phil, please correct me, making 3rd Street a one-way so that we could add additional parking to serve the downtown. So even though we've spent a lot of time and money putting the parking garage up, there's still an idea to continue to implement additional parking to serve the downtown in ways that it makes sense and where we can be creative. So adding the 3rd Street parking was just an easy win to get some more spaces to serve the downtown, and also isn't also, Caleb, the native plant garden part of this project? Yes, so that plus the Water Street project all lumped into one bid, which if we approve tonight, they will start later this week or next, and we will be done by Thanksgiving. So we would have all of this parking in place before the holidays, which would be great. So we've already done a couple years worth of due diligence, engineering, spent a couple $100,000 on all of this so far, and then the bid came in at $500,000 to do all 3 projects, which is, I think, pretty competitive. So I'm happy with where the pricing landed and the bids that we got. So if you have any questions, Phil can answer them and take it from here.
Go ahead.
Responding to some of the things that were on Facebook for the Water Street Improvement Project, I would love for Phil to state some of the pros on why we are making this decision and not just parking for kayakers, because that's what people seem to think. So with mitigating the speeding trucks and all that, like I said, there's a lot more to it. So if we could just have it on record again,
Awesome.
I think that would be wonderful.
Sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to offer a little insight into that. So Water Street would essentially construct what we're calling a parking area. It would be northbound. It'd be a 1-lane northbound. So all traffic southbound on Water Street and northbound on Water Street would go around the park. So currently there's no trucks allowed south of Barrington on Water Street. So the idea then, it would have essentially some type of a traffic calming, if you will, around the park. The parking area does allow for parking for not only the kayak launch, but also for the park, for Bartles Park. And as you can see on both it's probably not real visible there, but this pedestrian crosswalk here is a raised, it's an elevated table, so you ramp up, drive across, and then down. So the idea is to create a safer environment for pedestrians to park, to use both the park and the launch. And as we continue to develop the riverfront, we're looking at a path that will parallel the river, essentially between Water Street and the river, so people can enjoy that river as an amenity, and it'll create a safe place for both the park and the kayak launch. But also, too, we're looking at over time more of a conduit to from this area into our downtown area. So perhaps we utilize either Barrington or probably more realistically Railroad Street as a conduit to enjoying the riverfront to our downtown area. There are, on Water Street, we're looking at 8, as I mentioned in my memo, 8 standard parking spaces and 1 accessible parking space, including a loading zone here on the north end. And that would be the idea for someone who is ideally bringing some type of paddlecraft. They can kind of unload their vehicle or their trailer or whatever the case may be there. So I'm trying to think.
Thank you.
Or an RV, if somebody's visiting one of the neighbors around the area as well.
Sure, that's a
Yeah,
possibility.
Just larger.
So I walked this area today to try to figure out, so one of the reasons why we were selected for the grant that allowed us to get this craft launch installed at no charge to us was because there are very few ADA accessible craft launches in the county. So now we have one of the few, but there's no actual ADA accessible parking space anywhere in the vicinity. So I walked the area to try to find if I had if I wanted to use the launch and I needed an accessible parking space, where could I park? Guess what I found? It's pretty far away. There's really nowhere in the triangle area of Bartles to park and actually be able to have the loading zone I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the zone.
The striped area.
Right, to exit your vehicle to then.
Oh, the access aisle?
Right, there's no
Yeah.
access aisle, so no ADA parking space exists within any reasonable distance of the paddlecraft launch. So another benefit is that there's going to be an ADA accessible parking space for the launch, and also that this whole traffic calming proposal is in line with the riverfront master plan, which had a year's worth of community input to say, we really want to activate the riverfront and let people enjoy it and slow the traffic down and have the riverfront be sort of our crown jewel. If I missed anything, I'm sorry.
No,
That was-
it's-
that was like that was like the number one thing that came back from all of the community engagement, was to really activate the river. So. this
And
is a
to,
small
to,
part of
to
it.
add what Erica mentioned, adding accessible access to the park itself.
Yeah,
Because currently
nothing.
there's nothing for the park. And currently you can't get, there's no accessibility to the kayak launch because of the curb and.
Yeah, the curb's still 6 inches up.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
this elevated crosswalk will
Line it up
Yeah.
so they can go.
will make it a fully accessible area for the community to enjoy.
Right.
And
right now,
recreate.
there's no parking on Barrington, and there's no parking on Water. So you can park, I've seen people park on the other part of the diagonal, which is,
Second,
yes. But it does interfere with the traffic lane, so people do it, and it's fine, but, you know, cars then have to drive around.
And on our parking ordinance that we just passed a couple weeks ago, didn't we eliminate all street parking on Second
We're pro-
because of?
proposing to do that, yes,
Yeah.
because that'll become essentially the
Mhm.
a two-way street
Right.
for,
So then there would be more protected parking right along here.
yes. So Second Street between Barrington and Water will become a no parking zone.
Do you mean First Street that comes out of the?
No, so it would be this second over here, so the second
Oh,
that
that's
kind of wraps
Second
around the
Street.
park, yeah. So First
I see.
is over
Yeah.
here, yeah. And we had talked about making this a one-way perhaps, either north or southbound, but that, certainly something we can evaluate.
Which?
Subsequent, First Street there, this first, block of First Street between Barrington and North.
Okay.
But that's something we're not proposing any changes there tonight. We're looking, may look more closely at that as
Question,
time goes on.
this is a big project, and we're only adding 8 spots, can we do like 2 more right here? To get us up to 10 spots?
I'm going to invite William Loftus with Christopher Burke Engineering, and perhaps William can offer a thought on that. I don't know if you had seen Trustee Guma's question, but can we add some additional parking in this area here?
We certainly could. There's no engineering reason we couldn't. I think it was more just for like the beautification aspect of connecting the park and making it seem one with the kayak launch and the riverfront there. But there's no engineering reason we couldn't try and add an extra stall or two at the end there.
And so the other part of this project is having the actual river walk improved more in between Water and the river, which is, another phase further down the road along with the park itself. So while right now it might be classified as something that is servicing just the kayak path, that's not the case because of the future plans that we have to enhance.
Yeah, because the phase 2 of the kayak launch, paddle park launch is the fishing pier. And so that would be the next amenity that we would try to budget for in future year. And then there's some, the different amenities along the longer stretch with the benches, the overlooks, the swinging, we want to do like a, what do you call it, like a porch swing? And some other things like that, where there's an opportunity to engage with the water, where you could walk down potentially and actually have an ability to safely engage. People really love that, get wet, basically. So yeah, that's all part of phase 2.
That launch is one of the nicest launches I think I've seen. Like I followed it, but I had no idea it was so comprehensive. Like it is an ADA launch at all levels. Like somebody missing limbs or whatever it may be could use that. And it's kind of neat to see the design of it. I did not have that completely in mind until you actually go look at it. So if you have it, it's a really good thing for us to have here. And I can see why there's not too many of them. The cost on that, like, it's great that we got it at no cost, because the cost is probably pretty substantial on that. So.
And it's not quite finished. There's, they need to install a railing on the pier wall. And they're in the process this week of installing 2 additional concrete pads. No, this is off the agenda item
okay.
briefly. They're They're installing a concrete pad closer to the bottom of the path, and they're gonna put a bench there. And then to the south of the path, they're going to put a concrete pad in, which may accommodate a kayak kiosk at some point if and when that comes to fruition, so.
So,
Comment on the flow, like when you pull out, we were talking about maybe not allowing people to turn left. Did we decide on that yet, or we're not sure what they're allowed to do as they exit?
We discussed that, and William, did you want to maybe offer, we had talked about making, as you leave the parking area, a no left turn onto, I guess it would be Barrington to Water. I think it was recommended not to go that route at this point, and
So
see
people
how
would
it-
have to go through First to North?
So currently, as you're leaving the park area, when you get to Barrington here, you currently will have, at least as it's been designed, you have the choice of turning right onto Barrington, going straight onto First, or left onto Water. And I believe the question is and that is true, we did talk about making, prohibiting a left turn just to direct traffic right only onto Barrington, but we talked about that with the consultant and decided to not pursue that at this point.
So that would essentially be a four-way stop then?
Yes,
particular intersection?
essentially, yep,
3.5, because you're only going one way.
Yeah. three.
correct, yeah, 3.5, yes.
And then some
So those-
residents have had concerns that they thought that we're just making Water Street completely one way, but if somebody was going to, you know, up by Rosie's from 72, when they get to this, they just go 2 angles and then they're back on track to proceed, but it is a traffic calming and slowing effect, but it's not making it so they can't travel that direction. And then a concern, like as traffic comes down Water Street towards it, like up from Rosie's to this, a lot of people use that as through traffic and we're preventing them from cutting through this neighborhood. But that will probably redirect them on Barrington, but.
To Van Buren,
Yeah,
possibly,
Barrington
or through
to Van
downtown.
Buren, or through downtown.
or River.
And
Or
I
looking-
think eventually it will calm to where people won't see it as a shortcut because it is a slowed down downtown and residential area. But I wonder if, to start, if we can do any traffic calming in the other areas, people on Barrington that are upset that all traffic is being run down my street or up First Street. I feel like one easy win would be allowing overnight parking on one side on Barrington where we have that extra width. Like the more that it feels a little more constricted, the less it feels like you can just open up and floor it. Same on First Street, not during the winter when there's snow, but First Street's pretty wide. And I feel like when there's cars parked, people go the speed limit, but when it's opened up, then every once in a while you get somebody flying through at 45. So I wonder if when we do this, if we can address those other areas or at least look into it and see what we could do to make it so that when people are looking for the shortcut and they see that this is blocked, they don't find another shortcut to take, but instead there's traffic calming measures, enough places that they decide just go to 31 or get onto the highway, go around it instead of cutting through it.
Does that seem like something where it's like a wait and see? If it, you know, like do a traffic study once that's done and see are people speeding around that way, you know, like what the need is at that point, where it's
We can certainly do
rerouted,
that.
you know? But I mean, I see what you're saying, but instead of taking action when we don't know, maybe we can see what happens.
But yeah,
And
have
have an
some
idea.
ideas
Yeah.
ready to put in place
I agree.
if we see problems pop up other spots. It could be like a speed hump that gets put in somewhere or on-street parking in areas that have the width for it. Because we have had requests on Barrington for that since it's so close to the downtown and people do park along Barrington for our events where they're drinking and
Caleb, correct me if I'm wrong, right now, parking, on-street parking, parallel parking is allowed on the north side of Barrington between First and Second. We're moving that to the south side. The proposed code
Okay.
amendments, is that correct?
Correct, that's correct, yes.
So we are proposing parking adjacent to the park
yeah, that's smart.
Okay.
on the eastbound lane, yes.
One thing to add to that is currently the
just want to offer up some thoughts on this. I was at the meeting that we did. The village did an open house about this project. And the biggest opponents actually were not the people that live around this park at all. They were the people who live on North Van Buren Street. And their concern is if we shut this down, if we divert the traffic off of, this small stretch, that more people are going to use North Van Buren as a bypass rather than using Water Street. They feel as though North Van Buren is also already heavily trafficked with school traffic, and that this is going to exacerbate that. I don't know what the situation is with traffic on North Van Buren. I don't know that any of us do. I think one thing we can do, one thing that maybe we should do, is not approve this right now, or approve, have Lamp and Burke come back with doing this as a 3rd Street project only, for now. And in the meantime, I'd like us to do a traffic study on both North Van Buren and Water Street right now. See comparatively how much traffic these roads get. And then, after that, shut down this portion of Water Street with concrete barriers between these two roads temporarily, say for a month.
You mean to make it one way for a month?
No.
The way that we.
No, I just mean shut it down. Let's just shut it down and have people go around it.
Oh,
Because if you make it one way, people are just gonna go straight through. There's no way to
I see
stop
what
people.
you're saying.
Yeah. So shut it down for a month, and then after that month is up, do that same traffic study on North Van Buren and on Water Street and see what effect this actually has on traffic on both of those streets. And then after that, we have better data to make this decision with. We don't know what this is going to do traffic-wise. I tend to think that this is a good idea. I tend to think that the traffic won't be heavily impacted, but the truth is, it's a guess. We don't know. I understand that this puts a dent in our progress, and like I said, I think the way around that is to go forward with the 3rd Street stuff. And this is I'm only talking about taking a month, 6 weeks to do this, depending on how quickly we can get these traffic studies started. The other thing is, this sidewalk grant we're trying to get for North Van Buren Street
Yeah.
would be helped
Mhm.
with a traffic study on North Van Buren.
Right.
That request for the grant would be helped with a traffic study on North Van Buren. So it's kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone type thing, I think. And that's what I would recommend.
So I think that's an intriguing idea. I was gonna bring up the whole sidewalk safety thing, because I did listen to that whole thing, because I couldn't make it myself.
Yeah.
And while I understand their concern, I think it's more of a school and then the temporary, events that we have, which is the whole village or the whole downtown. Water Street's affected, everybody's affected, it's not just Van Buren that's affected. But, the safety was that what can we address, right? We can't, people are gonna speed no matter what, and we can look at trying to have more police presence, from both Carpentersville and from East Dundee, or in and around that school area, when honestly, it's a lot of the parents dropping their kids off and taking them off, and they've got the rush of their day to get, and that's where a lot of the speeding ends up happening from what I've experienced personally. Other people may experience something different, but if we can, and I've walked along that street a lot, and it kills me that there is probably like a 4-block or 3-block section where there is no sidewalk. on there, and, you know, and I can't believe that the school district hasn't put some of this in, or there hasn't been a combination of, and East Dundee did put more sidewalks in and extend it from where it was a couple of years ago up to Roslyn, which was great. But there's still a gap. And so if we want to encourage more safety and more kids walking and biking or whatever, even if it is on the sidewalk, and improve the safety, the sidewalk is going to do a lot. Enforcement is going to do a lot. And then also, we had a really, I'm going to take my whole report and bring it into this conversation because I think it's valid. I just heard from, you know, we've been working up with Gulfview and the issues with the traffic on Ravine, with cars backing up with parents trying to pick up their kids and shutting down that tiny little road. And it was really dangerous. And between Phil and the police department and the Carpentersville Police Department and the school board and the principal, they've rerouted everything. And so I ended up seeing Scott Crane at the last Motor Mondays, and who was the one that brought this all to our attention. He's just like, I asked him, like, how are things going? Because school had started. He said, it's incredible. They all work together. We pretty much eliminated the problem of the cars waiting on the side of the road that we've had. So I see Van Buren as a problem that hasn't been big enough yet, or hasn't had the attention for people to say we need to address this and fix it. But if this is the impetus, you know, if this is the reason why it comes up, that's great. And so I agree with you. I personally don't see how this change that's being proposed is going to really affect Van Buren that much more than the problem that's already there that needs to be addressed. So that's just my 2 cents on the.
Phil, do we know what the schedule is for this project from start to finish? And the reason I'm asking is because you got asphalt and they don't make asphalt in the winter. So if we have an idea, because I like the idea of doing the test, but if our schedule is designed where they're just sliding in right before asphalt stops production. then
There
it
is a completion date of, I
complicates
believe, November 14th. Does that sound about right? Yes.
Yeah, and actually, I totally forgot that Scott asked me a couple of days ago if we had bid this project separately or collectively so that we could piecemeal it out if the board wanted to delay one piece of it and move forward with the other. And I swear that I sent you that email saying the answer to that question, but I realized I didn't because it's not in my sent messages. So the answer to that question is that the project was bid in totality, so the $500,000 is to do all three pieces of it, and it's not split out. So if we want to postpone the Water Street portion of it, basically we postpone all of it because we have to rebid for just 3rd Street. And
Oh, wow.
There's an economy of scale
Yeah.
Sure there is.
for the
but
two.
Whoever bid this did it line by line. And even if they didn't tell you what the line by line is, they did it in their own office, line by line. And if we take out a certain number of lines, they can quickly, I would think, rebid it. Maybe they need to add a certain amount because of what you're saying about economy of scale and all that, but
A-Lamp is also the contractor that's starting the Summit Avenue Stormwater and Street Improvement Project this week, and that may have contributed as well, they being in town and
So
thinking.
they already have equipment here and
yeah.
people.
But yeah, so
yes,
they
yes.
could rebid the project in separate pieces, but there were 7 other bidders. So that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
we would have to let all of those bidders
Have the
that
same opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's a 3-month project.
Well, if we do shut this down and then we see there is an increase in traffic somewhere, I think it's a long-term thing, like Kathleen is saying, in other areas where then we would say, well, how do we slow this down? And it might re-divert somewhere else and then we're gonna slow that down. Like, I think it's a long-term fix to make the whole town less of a cut through, to send people to the highways instead of, if it is faster, they will cut through it. But I don't think one test will give us an answer of like, guess we should never do it. I think, no, we have to then block this and then that. So I feel like it's going to turn into not just a definitive answer, but testing out lots and lots of things over the next year.
And it may take 6 months to a year for people to figure out their new traffic patterns and actually really
No.
see.
And we've talked too about any motorists coming from Carpentersville and wanting to get quickly to 72, they might choose to use Main Street up to 31 and then as an alternative route. And that's something that we talked about with a firm that did a traffic study for us several
Or
years
Route
ago.
25, depending on outside of Carpentersville.
Our speed limit devices we use, the ones that tell you your speed, they count cars, correct?
I believe they do, yes.
Is there any way to set those up in the communities right now so that if the project goes through and there's a expected increase, we can actually have real data?
The last time I checked, the police department had one on Water and one on Van Buren.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, we have some data, historical data from, because we've moved them around because they are mobile. So we have some historical data from both locations, and then we can like redeploy them and get additional data and like make these comparisons. And also, one of the proposed initiatives, new initiatives for next year is this regional truck traffic study, because we have this concern of trucks going up Barrington and then, sort of using that as a cut through when there's a better truck route that goes through Carpentersville that we prefer people to use, but we've never been able to prove where all these trucks are coming from that go through the downtown all day long. But trying to have a pedestrian-oriented downtown, we need to try to mitigate those trucks as best we can. So as part of that regional truck traffic study, we can also add on this traffic study for Van Buren and see what mitigation measures can be implemented to slow the traffic, as well as sort of get some good data around that future planning. If we do something to Barrington in the future to mitigate the trucks, how would that affect those other roads? But there's multiple goals of sort of the holistic village-wide traffic mitigation strategies. So I think that a more holistic approach is great, so that we can pull the data all together and not have, move this chess piece and then these people get affected, but to have this sort of village-wide approach that, we're trying to do with the bike and ped plan, so that, we can put in pieces all over. So that would be one of the things I would suggest that we could add on to the project for next year.
Yeah, and I like the idea of having that data. If we could have like averages per street before we put it in, and then commit ourselves to keeping it to that or lower. And then if it goes, like, preferably this, like Van Buren, if there's too much, that we focus on getting that lower anyway, but seeing that blocking this little route, if it does increase somewhere, then we could be committed to saying, like, no, we committed to making sure it doesn't negatively affect this street.
We've done traffic studies on Water Street recently, just because to justify the whole shutting and understanding what would happen by taking no trucks south of the park.
Right, I do remember that.
So
But that was
there's-
truck focused, it wasn't overall traffic focused.
it didn't capture cars.
Well, it captured everything, but it was, the focus was to see the impact of the trucks.
Well, I guess if we are going to do this, I think we should talk seriously about maybe some, at least temporary speed bumps on North Van Buren.
I agree.
To slow cars down, that's the concern people have, is people speeding down North Van Buren.
It's a unique street. If it didn't have those two columns, like the stone columns, I think
Yes.
it would even be worse.
Leave those
Yeah,
columns.
I
Don't
think
touch
that
those columns.
No, I love the
I
columns.
think
I'm
it's
saying, I think that
emotionally
really
attached.
calms it.
It is a slow.
More
Yeah.
things like that
Yeah.
might calm it more.
And the other thing is, like,
So
when
there's a direct route to get to
Yeah.
that area.
So, the other thing that I heard was so much about the truck traffic and then the truck depot the bus depot, the bus traffic in the bus depot that is there. And, just as we did with Gulfview, is that the name of the school?
Oh, that
on
Lakeview,
Ravine?
Lakewood
Lakewood.
Elementary
In the-
School,
That's up on,
Ravine,
Ravine.
yeah.
There is also another street that's shut off, that already has a road built from that depot through the parking lot and to, the street that is just directly south of, is it Wilmette, Bonnie Dundee there? Is it Wilmette? Is that what it's called?
Edwards?
Cleveland. Is, what's
So
in front of the schools?
Cleveland
Cleveland is front of the
transitions to
schools.
Bonnie
So
Dundee
just
on the other
south.
side of Wilmette,
Yeah,
yeah.
so just south of there, there is, from walking, I don't know what kind of condition it is, but that goes, and it's chained off. So there are, potentially there could be other ways that we could work with the school district, with the bus companies on taking and either doing a one-way in and out, one way in on Van Buren, then out on the street, or some way mitigating the amount of traffic that is on Van Buren, just from the school buses alone. And you know what? It's never been looked at because nobody's complained.
Okay, we can put that on our list.
Trying to picture what road you're talking about here.
Find it.
So where Van Buren meets Edwards and Wilmette,
Where the chain is?
directly out in front of the bus entrance and
So-
slightly south.
So there's this, I can show you on a map. I'll show you where it is.
Have a map zoomed into it.
So there's Cleveland, and then, is it Edwards, or is there another street in between
This
Edwards
is
and
Cleveland.
Cleveland?
Are you thinking, this gentleman, here's the bus lot here?
Yep. So you see the, right, and so it's just north of where the jockey field is, so keep going to the west. Go to the west, go to the west, go to the west. See, right, come down a little bit on the map. Nope. Go
Oh.
up, go up, go up.
There's Jockey Field, go up a little bit
Yeah,
from
go
here?
up, go up, go up. Yeah, it goes on to Edwards. So see this path right here?
Oh,
This,
yeah.
there is a road or a path that comes around to Edwards as well.
Yeah, it goes on the school lot.
Yeah. So it could be completely not, I'm just trying to have us think a little bit more creatively.
That's Carpentersville there, though.
Yep.
But it's the same bus traffic as what you're talking about.
It's the same bus traffic, and the school's in Carpentersville. So but just to think about things a little bit differently. Maybe the buses come in off of Cleveland, into the lot instead of always just off of Van Buren. And so simple kind of traffic calming things that we've done before. So if they were to come in off of Cleveland close to the track and then into the lot. So there's more than one way to get there. Anyways, just a food for thought. Now we're off the subject, I'm sorry.
So we have a motion on the table.
Yes, we do. Should we call the question? Are we ready to call the question?
I'm ready.
Are we ready to call the question? Okay.
Would you like me to read it out?
Call the roll.
Call the roll.
Call the roll. Yes, please.
Trustee Oakland?
Yes.
Trustee Guma?
Yes, but the only thing I'd like to see is a couple more spots here, maybe one more accessible spot. Can we add that in? Does that change everything?
Yeah, we would need to add it before the vote. We would need to approve it with conditions.
Do you need me to resend my vote and then we add those conditions?
We'll
Well,
place the motion.
we still need
Is
the
this-
engineer to look at it
Is that
and
going to
determine.
affect
Yeah.
the price, because you're now adding
Yeah.
a
You're
pavement?
changing the scope.
It will add cost to the paving line item.
The increased
Potentially.
cost on landscaping line item?
Do we know how many,
Perhaps move the tree
costs
down.
there are
I
on
mean, there'd be
Second
some
Street?
additional costs.
I mean, we could always approve the project tonight and then we can ask them to
For a
provide
change
a
order.
change order of
Yeah.
price and then we can bring that back to the board.
Okay,
Much better.
yes.
Yeah.
Like it.
There you go.
Trustee Sauter,
Yes.
trustee Saviano.
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey? No. And President Pro Tem Mahoney.
Yes. Did you get to vote?
Yeah,
Everybody
I said yes,
voted?
but.
All right, next item.
I'll move to approve a resolution waiving bidding requirements and approving procurement of professional engineering services for construction engineering services for the Third Street and Water Street Improvement Project by Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, or LTD, in an amount not to exceed $61,855.
Second.
Any other, this kind of just ties back to this last one, so any questions on that?
Trustee Oakland?
Yes.
Trustee Guma?
Yes.
Trustee Sauter?
Yes.
Trustee Saviano?
Yes.
Trustee Coonsey? Yes. And President Pro Tem Mahoney.
Yes. All right,
Thank you both.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bill?
Thanks for coming tonight. All right, then we will move on to reports. Trustee Guma, do you have any reports?
I'll start. No report.
All right. Andy,
No report.
Tricia?
So you'll see our sculpture's back in town. So we went to the Habitat for Humanity, Andy and I, and Mary Kay Harvey on the Arts Council were there. And I want to do live auctions with the paddle like all the time now because that was so fun. But that's dangerous too. But we got two sculptures with our budget, and then one was donated back to us. So we have 3 total. 2 are already installed, and 1 should be installed near the river. So 2 globes, and then the bee bird.
The one that was made by our president
Mary Kay
Mary
Harvey.
Kay, sorry.
Yes, we got hers was the one donated back. Her brother got it in the
So nice.
auction and then donated it back to us.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was exciting. Yeah, and then Lindy, I cannot say her last name because it's T and it's very long. Do you know, Caleb, her last name?
Pronounce it.
I don't wanna mispronounce.
Okay, all right. Anyway, she is the Community Service Award recipient for the Chamber of Commerce. So Kathleen and I are going to be going to that October 4th, I believe it is, and then I'm going to present the award to her. So
Awesome.
we thank her and all she does for our town.
Mhm. Awesome.
We had our QuadCom, our quarterly QuadCom meeting. And the news out of there is, besides the price increase, one thing that did get approved was the community notification system. It will be provided by QuadCom. We will be able to use it individually, not all of QuadCom's area, but just our area. And the best news is that it's getting paid for by the 911 surcharge on your cell phone bills, so it will be of no cost to the village. So,
Great news.
cool.
That's awesome. Matt?
Yeah. I attended that the last Thursday, and it was packed. It was really neat to kind of see the full effect of what the village is like capable of. I felt we were like, the term I was using was at capacity, and but it allowed me to kind of look around at like the parking in the area at a major event, the sound impact. So I kind of just wandered around, and we've had some complaints on Ray Road, at least one. That is like a sound corridor. With the way the stage is set, it like goes right up that street. So it is strange because once you start getting behind the other buildings, it's half as loud, but that street gets hit pretty hard. So I found that to be pretty neat, because the complaint is completely rational. Another thing is parking. The garage was completely full. There was a couple spots left open with the electrical park, or the electric vehicle parking, so maybe we need to increase signage to let people know that that's there, because there was like Teslas and cars parked in there, but they just weren't using the 2 spots. And then with the garage, if it's at capacity, you have to reverse out if you go up. And so the village is working at moving some spots around so that you can turn around on the 2nd floor. But I wanted to kind of bring up the idea a little bit about, those sensing devices that they have in garages. So it'll tell you how many spaces are left inside the garage. A lot of towns have them. And then somebody wouldn't have to go up knowing, because there's 0 spots left. So
And they find
this
out
is
that it was
something,
full.
something that might be an easy thing with our garage being the size it is. It might not be a super big cost. So, but I thought that could help. But the parking was full throughout the community. It was parked everywhere. So you really got to see it firsthand. So that's all I got. Just thought I'd share.
No report?
No report.
No report. Some of the admin was supposed to start today and then push it back to Wednesday.
All right. You ride them. Make sure they start Wednesday. I'm kidding. Brandis? I had a small, I'd already mentioned about Scott Crane, but I do want to thank everybody that was involved in finding the solution to the traffic issue on Ravine with the school district and working together with them. I think it sets a really nice relationship that we've started, and starting it with a success is really a lovely thing. We're moving into new seasons, and we've got the skeleton out.
Love it.
Thanks to Scott, pushing it and getting it going, and
Wow.
he is dressed already to welcome the Oktoberfest season.
I didn't see that.
And
Is there no way to get the skeleton to sit down in the Adirondack chair, or is that impossible?
The knee doesn't bend.
It doesn't
it
bend.
doesn't bend.
So that was
Hold
easy.
the
We
lines,
we
hold
can
up the
install a
clock.
hinge on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Break his kneecaps, yeah.
Yeah, it fits together, but we can
Right.
All
be
right.
creative. I don't know how.
The dream dies with that, I
Good
guess.
check.
Yeah.
There's a
Hasn't
metal
died
rod.
yet, 'cause I was talking to somebody today about a smaller one.
Okay.
Buy another.
Oh, there you go.
It's like a
There we go.
4-foot one that does have bendable limbs.
How tall?
4 foot. So it's not as
It's
big.
kind of like
Cute,
a,
the
like
feel,
a
like
little
we
bit.
also
The thing
tried
about
that.
that 12 foot is that it's perfect for that chair, because it's already an oversized chair,
I
so.
feel like we have creativity in the Public Works Department
Yes.
that they could potentially manipulate this, the existing one or a second one of that and
Wow.
weld, fuse, super
Mhm.
glue, do some surgery.
You
It
put
is-
this
Make it
on,
work.
It'll hide the
So,
hinge.
I'm
It
not
is
sure
great.
it out yet.
Install a hinge, whatever.
It's great that we have it.
If
I
we
don't mean to,
try
I
and it
don't
doesn't
mean to
work,
make anybody feel
Yeah.
bad.
It's okay, but
Thanks, Scott.
it might just add to the effect if it looks like its leg has some
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
surgical damage.
Yeah.
But also now that we're finished with the summer season, we can probably take down the bunting. That's
They
up.
were supposed to have done that last week. Is it still up?
It was still up this week, over the weekend, yeah.
Okay, I'll remind them.
We are
Thank you.
having a community events meeting tomorrow at 6, to discuss Dickens for this year, and then trying to set some calendar dates for 26. And we don't have to have William Street involved in that at this point.
They are aiming for 2027.
27, that's what I thought, okay. Yeah, and looking forward to seeing everybody at Oktoberfest coming up. On 8/23, we had the first Depot Market, and I have a great picture, I don't know if anybody wants it, that I took with all of the family fun days at the Depot Market, and there was definitely an increase in attendance of vendors and more people down, but keep spreading the word, there's another one coming up. which date. but
I think this Saturday.
This Saturday? Yeah. So, bring your kids. Cheap, free family fun. That's it. And then Erica.
No report.
Oh, all right. No, executive session? Cool. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I-
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I love the skeleton box. We get to do names.
Thank you.
So,
So
for the holiday, so America's like.